Right, we are going to do a classic character profile this evening.
A classic one.
Classic, so classic.
How long has it been?
It means not in the programme anymore.
Wow.
Or has been for a long time.
Is that what classic means?
Yes. Are you just getting the hang of this after...
No, I thought you just meant, was Ken Barlow not a classic character?
No, he's a current character.
How could you say it's not classic?
No more questions. We're doing Vicky McDonald today, who is the only McDonald spouse that we haven't covered yet on our character profiles. And I thought that as we had Steve's lovely board of exes in Monday's episode when he was looking through all the rings, it'd be good to find out where it all began.
Right, so can I just check with you that you think that Vicky McDonald is a more classic character than Ken Barlow?
Technically speaking,
your definition of classic is not the same as mine.
What would you call this segment of the podcast?
I do not want to ever drive in a classic car with you.
What would you call this?
Archive characters.
Well, you go back 6 years and tell me to call it that, and maybe I'll do that.
Do you know what? I might just invent a time machine just to go back in time and tell you what.
Right, today's archive character is Vicky McDonald.
Don't be such annoying. I'm only teasing you.
She was born on the 8th of January 1977 to Sandra and Tim Arden. Vicky Arden.
She's quite young then.
Well, what do you mean, is she?
For a classic character, she is.
I'll tell you, it's confused me. She got married to Steve in 1995.
Yes.
So she was quite young there, look. And then she had another husband called Robert in 1999. She first appeared on Coronation Street on the 5th of January 1990 and made her last appearance on the 30th of December 1998. So coming up to 20 years ago since we've seen her.
She married Robert off the show.
Well, not quite.
Oh, God.
Not quite. You shall see. She was 261 episodes strong in Coronation Street. I started off that sentence
you
and
didn't
know
know
how
where
to
you were
end
going,
that.
did you?
She was in 261 episodes, some might say. And she was... I didn't even realise this until I came to do her as a archive character.
Michael.
Classic character. Helen Warburton played her in 1990, and then Chloe Newsome from 1991 to 1998, and I never realised that she was played by another actress, even though it was only for like 4 episodes when it started. Because, Vicky's a character that started before I was watching, but by the time I started watching, she was like well established, a classic, you might say.
You might say that.
So I must have watched her for like 3 or 4 years, but I didn't really remember very much about her. She was fairly unremarkable, is my scathing criticism of this character, and it didn't particularly match the lofty standards of Steve's subsequent spouses. But
okay.
With that in mind, let's have a really interesting discussion about her.
Would you rather be forgettable or hated? Would you rather be a Vicky McDonald or a Donald Trump?
Vicky McDonald Trump.
No one's going to forget Donald Trump, but they might just forget Vicky McDonald. So if you've forgotten her, let us remind you.
Yes. And Gemma doesn't know anything about Vicky either, because I did all the research for her. This is Gemma's going to be the first time that you've actually learned.
It's very
You'll
different.
learn along with everyone else who doesn't know.
It's very different from the usual character profiles we do, where obviously I do all the research.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Know exactly, without even reading what the character of the story is.
Well, this was a little bit different because the Vicky McDonald page on Coropedia is there's not much there at the moment, so I used books to do research for her this time. I had a Coronation Street 40th anniversary book that I was going through the pages of, so if it's all wrong, then blame that. I think it was Darren Little.
Let's beat him up.
Right.
I think we could both take him
Chloe Newsome was a young actress from Sheffield. She was in the Sheffield Crucible Youth Theatre at the age of 11, and then she got a part in Children's Ward, which was an old children's ITV show that I used to watch. Did you ever watch Children's Ward? You were a children's BBC girl, weren't you?
I was a BBC girl and didn't watch anything on that filthy new channel.
I think there's quite a couple of Coronation Street characters that used to be on Children's World. I have a feeling that Sammy Gardy was. I don't know. I know definitely. You know, do you remember Connie, who Jack went out with for a bit, or was friends with for a bit after Vera died?
The cleaner who lived in a mansion.
Yeah. She was one of the matrons or the sisters or something in Children's World.
I can imagine her being a matron. I liked Connie.
Yeah, she was cool.
I'll bring her back.
Definitely. Anyway. The person in charge of her Children's Ward said, "You know what, Chloe, you should be Vicky McDonald because they're recasting.
What are you wasting your time in this dump of a show?"
Yeah, you need prime time, baby. So Helen Warburton was a red-headed actress, the old Vicky, And she hasn't. I don't know what she's done. She's disappeared into the ether since her short stint as Vicky.
Right, so she doesn't have any more credits after
no more...
Coronation Street. So I'm going to assume that she either married a Saudi prince, or she got a degree in particle physics. And went on to do research.
One of those
black
two.
Holes.
One of those two.
It's got to be one of them.
Chloe, there's quite an interesting quote from one of the books from Chloe. She said she was terrified on her first day on Coronation Street because Julie Goodyear and Roy Barraclough, who played Bet and Alec, obviously, apparently walked. She says they walked up to me and started saying, "She's an imposter. She's not Vicky," and I felt really awful. So that must have been pretty horrible.
Are they joking? Or are they drunk or what?
I think they were probably joking, but there's always probably is going to be a little bit of truth in there because they've made a mini relationship with another actress, and but if you're a young child, how old was she then?
I don't know. But
Young teen.
The thing is,
you're not going to notice that, are you? If you're thrown into a massive show like Coronation Street or anything really, or a new job, people are saying that can't be very nice.
You'd think that they would be used to people coming and going.
I guess so, they would. Also, it was scary on her first day because she was being comforted because her character's parents had just died. Spoiler alert. So Julie Goodyear, who was obviously very larger than life and big and buxom, I think this was in the middle of a massive hair period.
Hair period sounds messy.
She was cuddling her up on the sofa, and Chloe said she was shaking in the corner. So she didn't have a great start on Coronation Street.
But it's good for the role, isn't it?
It is. It got into character. Indeed.
Right.
So this is the story of Vicky.
It feels like we've been so long since we last did one of these character profiles.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I don't think it has been.
I probably wasn't listening.
That's probably it. That probably doesn't say it. In fact, I prepared a whole other character to do a classic character profile. I spent like 2 hours on Saturday last weekend. So I got another character that I'm going to do, and I've spent 2 hours researching him. And then on Monday's episode, when Steve had all his wives board, I was like, no, I'm going to change it. I'm going to make Vicky. So we've got another character in the bank to use later on this year. We've got a couple actually. We've got 3 or 4 that I've written up.
Not impressed by you. You only do that because you want to get out of doing sociable things.
No, maybe. What, like watching the football?
What is this football you speak of?
Anyway, right, so 1990, Alec Gilroy got in touch with his estranged daughter Sandra, who was living in a very posh house in Cheshire. And Vicky's first appearance was when Alec nearly backed into her as she was riding a horse down the road. And he nearly knocked her off her horse. And then she was very hoity-toity and, a very spoilt, brattish kind of character. And it turns out that she's his granddaughter. And she actually ended up taking quite a shine to him, unlike Sandra, his daughter, because Alec came across as being rather money-grabbing, which he was. He also changed his will, though, to leave £2,000 to Vicky, which annoyed Bet. What happened in 1991, Gemma?
You really confused me because you're using the word Victoria.
Vicky.
And I was like, which one are we doing the thing on, Vicky. Victoria or Sandra? I can't remember.
You really aren't listening, are you? Right, go on, 1991. So this is when Chloe was in the role.
This is the trouble,
Gemma's going to read out and make it sound like she knows exactly what she's talking about.
In 1991, if you remember, that's when Sandra and her husband Tim were killed in a car crash. It was awful.
I think they were on their way back from a funeral or something, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else can you say? I think that's right.
Alec and
Or
Bet.
wedding, one of the two. Go on, sorry, you carry on. Let me drink my tea.
Alec and Bet have to break the news to Vicky when she comes back from boarding school, so that Julie Goodyear can freak out the actress with a giant wig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Vicky doesn't want to move into the Rovers
because it's rather slovenly.
Slovenly.
She's used to her leafy Cheshire home.
I don't think I'd want to live in a pub.
But I would like to live in a pub.
We don't exactly live in a palace, do we? But I think I'd rather live here than in a pub.
Well, I just don't like pubs.
I think if I lived in a pub, I would become an alcoholic.
You would, definitely would. You'd be making
I'd be
yourself
down there every night
24
going,
hours a day.
No one's going to know, so I take a bit of
Just the nights?
Yeah, because you can't get drunk during the day.
I think you could if you lived in a pub.
Oh, we'll have to investigate this. Anyway, so Alec had to take a job emceeing on a cruise ship to pay for her so she can carry on going to boarding school. But she has to live with them in the holidays. And Alec is a bit of a git because he charges her estate £50 for board and lodgings, which in 1991 was enough to buy a top floor masonette. True fact. Gets to know Steve McDonald at Christmas, and they run off to Cheshire together on New Year's Eve. After he got involved.
Really good reading, Gemma. Well done.
It's really good writing, Michael. It's perfectly written.
I write it for myself.
Well, you can read the rest of it out then.
Steve had got involved with a gang who were selling stolen car radios, and then
You've written stereos, so
stereos, radios, is all the same thing, isn't it? And anyway, he got oh,
great!
I remember this really, really well now. Yeah, he was getting in trouble for that anyway, so he wanted to do a runner, and also
he wanted to do one.
He wanted to do one indeed, and Vicky had discovered that Bet had been having this affair with Des Foster.
No, De Foster.
And so she wanted to get out of Dodge as well, so they both went off to Cheshire together. Now, that caused a bit of a ruckus over New Year because Liz was pregnant at the time with child number 3. Who's that, you ask? Well, remember a few weeks ago she mentioned baby Katie to Johnny? It was Johnny, wasn't it? She was talking to him about. So she was pregnant with baby Katie, but the stress of not knowing where Steve was over Christmas made her go into labour early, and baby Katie died within hours of being born. New Year tragedy for McDonald's there. And apparently Liz thinks about her every day since. I'd forgotten about her. Anyway, also that year, Vicky discovered that Alec had claimed against her estate for the rent and her Christmas money, so she wasn't very happy with that.
What, for her birthday? Gifts?
Yes. He took money from her estate.
Oh, wow.
And bought her Christmas presents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he also tried to stop Vicky's relationship with Steve because he thought that Steve was a bit of a bad lad.
I think I'd be a bit peed off if I had to look after some rich little brat kid. And I was like, and she's like comes from Cheshire and been riding her horse about, and then she's sitting in my house moaning, and then she expects fancy gifts.
Well, yeah.
I'd take it out of her estate as well.
There was probably a little bit of jealousy there, but also like, well, there's money.
There's money. Do you want it or not?
He was a bit of a ducker and a diver, Alex, wasn't he? He'd get money where he can. He was like a total Ebenezer Scrooge. So
not only would I take money from her estate for her gifts, but I'd take them for mine too from her. Be like, you bought me a really nice present this year.
Well, he was her legal guardian at that point, I think. So do what he wants.
Just please him.
Anyway, she was very much besotted with Steve at this point, but she had principles, obviously, and she didn't want to go to bed with him when he tried to, tempt her into the sack or a freezer or wherever the kids do it these days. Anyway, but so things cooled off a little bit between her and Steve.
And this was when Steve was a young, hunky, teenage heartthrob.
He totally was.
Or maybe not teenage, but...
I don't remember.
He was a youth.
He was a youth. I think he was teenage. I think he was teenage back then. Next year, 1993, she offers to pay for Steve's car insurance after he passes his driving test. And to celebrate, he took her to Birmingham, the romantic city of Birmingham, where he deflowered her.
Oh dear.
Where better to do it than in Birmingham?
There's not really many other places to go, is there?
Vicky found out, though, at the end of the year, or towards the end of the year, I don't really know, I didn't write it down, that he was two-timing her with Alison, who was a nurse, and I think that was a friend of Andy's as well, so they both dumped him at the same time. You can do 1994 while I drink some more tea.
1984, she leaves for Southampton to get away from Steve because it's really nice weather down here.
It's lovely down here in Southampton.
And we had seagulls in our garden the other day, and Michael took a photo because he's still not used to living next to the sea.
No.
She returned to Weatherfield and had a bit of a quiet year.
Didn't do
just
much in
basically supporting Bet with her dodgy love life, which I don't know what that supporting Bet means, like handing her condoms. Not sure.
I think
patting her on the back,
offering her
sage advice, like don't put out on your first date.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Vicky is gutted when she returns for Christmas and discovers that Steve started going out with and moved in with hairdresser Fiona Middleton.
Yeah.
Yes.
You going to make any Kate Middleton joke?
Every single time I see Fiona Middleton, I'm like, oh, the Middleton, the black sheep of the family.
1995, this was a big year for Vicky. So, she turned 18 in 95 and she got £240,000 for her 18th birthday.
She would have got 250 if it
was for Alec Gilroy, siphoning off the money over the years.
That must have been so much money.
$250,000. Oh, no,
It's a lot
you're
now,
saying it's not now, yeah?
Well, I mean, you can buy an average house, can't you?
Yeah, it's twice what our house is worth, isn't it? Anyway, she thought, I don't need to go to school anymore. I quit. So she dropped out of school. She's said, I'm not going to go to university. I may be posh, but I'm not bright enough for all that. But
just like some people I could mention.
I mean, £240,000. Yeah, why bother?
I wouldn't bloody go to university back in those days if I had that much money.
Well, one of the first things that
I assume she's beautiful.
Of course.
Well then, no point.
One of the first things that she spent her money on was investing in Steve's business.
Don't invest in anything.
He had a T-shirt printing business called Done to a T. And she became his business partner.
No.
Fiona wasn't happy with this.
No. If I was her, with my £240,000 in the 90s, I would have got myself to London, rented a little pad somewhere posh, made friends with bigwigs, and find myself a banking boyfriend who I can then marry and then divorce just in time to get all of his cash.
Even more money.
Yeah, and then I'll marry for love after that. Always marry for money the first time around.
Well, I wish you'd done that before you met
mistake.
Me.
Not doing that again.
Vicky eventually takes control of Steve's finances completely, and Fiona throws him out. He goes straight to Vicky, and before long, they're engaged. And his first engagement ring of many.
Ka-ching.
So they wanted to have quite a short engagement, but the Gilroys talked her out of it. Remember, Alec was not keen on her seeing Steve at all. In fact, he offered Steve £5,000 to dump Vicky.
Why are they always doing that?
I know that's obviously a thing in Coronation Street. Gail offered Kylie
money. Yeah,
I think that might have even been £5,000 actually. I don't remember, but it didn't work. So I don't know whether she took the money and did a runner or whether she just refused it. But they went off to St Lucia to get married,
nice.
Which I think it probably is his most exotic
wedding
ceremony.
Lucia,
I would like to go to St Lucia because I did a school project on it once, and they had a honeymoon. I want to go there
because they've got chocolate plantations.
They had a honeymoon in the Caribbean,
or something.
like we did.
We did that.
We did that. They did it first though. When they got back to Manchester, they moved into a quayside flat, which is very fancy. They had a joint bank account. And Steve got very annoyed when Vicky tried to stop him gambling so much. So he tried to earn a little bit of extra cash by receiving stolen whiskey, but then he ended up getting arrested.
Was it whiskey with an E or no E?
I never remember whether whiskey is spelt with an E or not. The where I copied this from, it didn't have an E.
Oh my God.
And I think I found a word that I don't know.
Michael, it depends on where it's from.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll learn. You can tell me about that later. This was a Y whiskey, not an EY whiskey. Anyway... Bet was also having financial troubles this year as well, because this was the time when she was, by this point Alec had left her. She was on her own in the Rovers, and she couldn't afford to pay for it. So she asked Rita for some money. She also asked Vicky for some money, and Vicky's like, no chance, but I'll buy you a house and charge you rent for it. How about that? Well, Bet was livid by this because she'd been supporting Vicky for all these years. Given all the love, all this roof over her head.
Hairspray,
she did probably. She didn't want to, be
snubbed.
No, she didn't want Vicky to be her landlady, basically. After all this, so she left Weatherfield.
Bye, she said.
Bet.
See you later.
I'll be back later for some really brilliant scenes.
Right, in 1996, Steve gets Vicky to pay this guy who is called Malcolm Fox.
Yeah,
and he's dodgy. £6,000 to change his statement to the police about Steve selling him this dodgy whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Fox's wife finds out about the money and tells the police for some reason. And Vicky gets arrested, and then she leaves Steve and clears out their account. Steve tells the courts that the bribe was Vicky's idea. The judge doesn't believe him, and Steve gets sentenced to 2 years in prison. And then Vicky leaves Weatherfield to take a hotel management course in Switzerland.
As you do.
And divorce proceedings begin. And no doubt she said it on a Monday and
I
was
was
gone
just
by
going to say
Friday.
that. It is a classic Coronation Street let's emigrate storyline.
They've got a last minute cancellation on a hotel management course.
And don't forget, this is the days of only 3 episodes a week as well. So it might have just been that she decided on beginning of Monday's episode and was gone by the end of that Monday's episode because they had to condense everything down back in those days.
I tell you what, if money was no object, I would be on the next plane to Switzerland for a hotel management course.
I'd go for a chocolate course. I don't know what I'd be doing with chocolate, but...
No, but that's a very saturated market.
I'd stop them making Toblerone so thin.
There's a lot you
I'd
can
be a national hero.
Don't they all have guns in Switzerland as well?
I don't think so.
I think they do. I think they're all in the army,
peaceful.
aren't they?
I don't know.
I think they've all got to have a gun, and they've all got holes that they hide in.
I've never heard that before, but I don't know very much about Switzerland.
You don't know the difference between whiskey and
thing.
whiskey, so...
Anyway, they start getting divorced. We don't get to see any of Vicky in 1997, but she's back in 1998, the very end of the year, for a final stint on Coronation Street. And she was asking Alec to look over some figures that she'd put together for a wine bar that she was hoping to open in Brighton.
Which is one of the most stressful places to live in the country.
Oh yes, you've been looking that up, haven't you?
And Southampton is one of the 10 least stressful places in the country.
So she made the wrong move there.
Who wrote the article, I think, I probably lived in one of the stressful places, because they were kind of insinuating that people that lived in more stressful places were high achievers, and the ones that live in least stressful places probably weren't up to much in their lives.
I don't know.
Which is probably correct.
Well, we get to find out a bit more about Vicky's wine bar in 1999, and this wasn't Coronation Street. So
is it a trendy wine bar?
It was so trendy. This was in the Coronation Street spin-off. It was called After Hours. It was played every night of a week, 10 o'clock at night, I think. And it had the adventures of Vicky and Alec and Bet and Steve and Vikram, and also they brought Reg Holdsworth back for it, just for a little experimental thing. So this is why we got to see her in 1999, even though it wasn't in the show.
What, for a week?
For a week, at 10 o'clock.
Do you know what? I was thinking today, they should do, because we were watching Desperate Housewives, and we're at the end of the show as a whole, aren't we? Near the end of it.
I think we've still got 3 series
Yeah,
left.
but it's in the last half. It's in the second
Yes.
half, and it's all gone downhill and very much to pot. And I was thinking, do you know what? It would be really cool if they just did a week of Coronation Street where everything was just the most soap it could be, you know? And it would just be... Everything was dialed up to the extreme amount, and all ridiculous things happened, and then it just went back to normal.
Yeah, but when they wake up, it was all a dream.
I wouldn't necessarily... Well, it could even be like that if you want it to be.
Well,
just everything ridiculous would happen.
You never know, they might be putting plans for the 60th anniversary. It's coming up in 2 years.
Well, don't ask me, because I clearly have no good ideas.
Anyway, so in this
after our spin-off.
Yeah, so Steve and Vikram are on their way to Brighton, where Steve had been planning to get back with Vicky so he could stop her marrying her new fiancé, Robert, who was the guy we were talking about earlier.
He's probably from Switzerland.
No, she found out that he was going to go to Calais to get a load of fags and booze and stuff to sell on, which we weren't supposed to do, and she found out that and shipped him off to customs. It turns out, though, that her wine bar is in financial trouble.
Oh.
And so is Bet, who's also in Brighton there for the wedding. Steve does his best to charm the knickers off Vicky's knickies. And it works eventually, and they spend the nights together on the day before her wedding, also in classic Coronation Street fashion. And she eventually decides, though, to stay with Robert. And that was the last that we got to see of Vicky marrying this Robert bloke, and that was it.
Toodle pip.
And then it was the millennium, and we all forgot about her. So that was the story of Vicky McDonald. Not the most exciting character, I would say. Sorry, Chloe, and anyone else who is a Vicky fan, but it just doesn't really hold up to the main wives. Who's your favourite Steve McDonald wife? We got Becky, we got Karen, we got Michelle, we got Tracy slightly.
So I would have said Tracy was one of the main ones, but that's probably because I don't remember Karen very much.
Yeah, I mean...
but Becky's my favourite.
Yeah, I think Becky's a favourite as well. They're all very, big characters, weren't they?
But they're all very similar to each other as well, even though they're all quite unique in their own respects, but they're all the type, aren't they? Big, mouthy, scary, chavvy.
Yeah, you're right about them being mouthy. And
Tracy's mouthy.
And they wore the trousers in the family.
Steve likes to be shouted at, as we know from his torturous
But I get the
Michelle.
idea with Steve and Vicky that wasn't necessarily the case. I mean, she was in control of his finances and everything, but I mean, I'm getting the impression that she was very, very besotted with him, and it was a bit more of an even partnership, I guess.
That's why it didn't last.
Yeah, exactly.
To be dominated. It's probably his fetish.
Well, anyway, it doesn't seem like Chloe's done a huge amount of TV work after Corrie, but she has been on stage. She's done a bit of Shakespeare. She's been in The Importance of Being Earnest. She's been in...
I was in that.
What?
Yes, I was.
Were you?
Yes, I was.
What? Where? At school?
Yes. Oh, God, Michael, don't you make out it doesn't count?
That totally counts.
A handbag?
She
That's
did.
what I had to say.
She was also in And Then There Were None, and that wasn't that thing that they made the TV drama of a few years ago. I like that.
With the racist title.
Yes, that one. They had to change the title, didn't they? That's about it, really.
Yeah,
I think she's just not a particularly likeable character because she was kind of a
Why'd
rich
you have to be so horrible?
I don't remember.
You don't even remember?
I vaguely remember her from like the dawn of my Corrie watching time, and I didn't really think much of her. I think it's because she was quite rich and spoiled, and that doesn't necessarily make a likeable character, does it?
I'd love to be rich and spoiled.
She's the sort of person that like Summer could grow into.
My ideal person, right? If I was to base my life on anybody, it would be in Jurassic Park. No, Jurassic World. Is that the new one? Not the new one, but the new one that came out before the latest one. The girl who was in that with the red hair, she's my idol. Running around with high heels on, wearing like this most outrageously inappropriate outfit with beautiful bobbed hair, shooting dinosaurs.
What's that got to do with Vicky again?
They're both posh and rich, little madams.
But
I honestly don't remember what the link is.
That could have been it. Well, I was just saying that it could be like Summer. Do you think that Summer's going to like inherit a load of money when she turns 18?
She'll probably inherit a bunch of China shepherdesses as well.
I mean, I don't get the impression that Drew was mega rich, but I mean, I'm sure they could rewrite.
Let's just say it doesn't seem to me as though Drew had brothers or sisters, because you would have thought that he would have given his daughter to them to look after. And also, when Geraldine was being a cow, nobody stepped in. There was no like going, oh, leave Drew alone, or you know, you never accepted Drew, mum, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know, it was all.
I mean, I suppose Summer could inherit a load of money from Geraldine.
That's what I was talking about. That's what I meant, really.
Oh yeah. So
I would assume that Drew's money either went to Billy in a trust, or is in a trust for Summer, or got given to Geraldine.
Yeah.
And her simpering husband.
Oh, well,
but yeah, when Granny Spellman dies, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yeah.
And Summer can like donate a load of money in her name to
LGBT charities. Yeah.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Get a nice rainbow-coloured bench up with Granny Spellman's name on it. Brighton on the pier.
What else can we say? So, spin-offs. Do you think that Coronation Street should do more? Because it seems like
you reckon that EastEnders have done more, but I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I did a little search on the internet for other soap spin-offs, and EastEnders has done other ones. They've done a couple of like World War II set episodes. Like there was one about Dot Cotton when she was young. There was another one about. There's one I can't remember what it was called from the late 80s, which was another like hour-long EastEnders set in the war. And then there was that. Did you see that Redwater thing that was advertised last year? That was Kat and Alfie going off to Ireland to have mysterious adventures together in Dramaland.
Are you lying?
No, totally. There was like a 6-part, I think.
What?
BBC late night spin-off, but it wasn't. They didn't mention like Wolford or EastEnders or anything. They were just literally like two characters. They were still Kat and Alfie, and they went off to get up to some post-watershed shenanigans. That's about all I know.
I don't believe you.
It's true. It happened. They're not making another series of it though.
It was terrible.
I don't know whether it was supposed to be any good or not.
I mean, they had for Corrie, they did have those like digital shorts.
They've had the digital shorts. They've had the DVD specials.
Yeah. And they've tried to do spin-off series a couple of times.
Like what?
Well, like the Stuck in the Lift
they did the Stuck in the Lift program that Jerry Booth was in, and Arthur Lowe's spin-offs that he did as well. But just they haven't done it for a while. I just don't know who.
There's not enough people that would be interested these days. I tell you what they could do though is do one where they all go to Canada.
Corrie in Canada, yeah.
They would wet their pants in Canada if that happened.
Well, they could just film something when
they're over there.
When they're over there this year, when Lisa and Katie are over there, maybe.
They're pretty scared of doing it because they think they'll offend everybody.
I think they could still do something like a Becky's Barbados Adventures or something, couldn't they? Again, with just like with the 60th anniversary stuff coming up, they must be like shooting off some ideas about the sort of things they could do.
They could definitely sell a Kate and Rana after 10 p.m. TV series.
They definitely could that.
They could make them go to some Scottish island and investigate a murder in a way that only lesbians can do. and they can be like challenged by the locals. It'd be like a cross between Miss Marple and the Wicker Man.
It sounds good. Well, we've put that idea out there now. Yeah. Right, I don't think we've got anything more to say about Vicky. You've got no idea who she is. I don't have brilliant memories of her.
You're making out. You've mentioned quite a few times today that I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know why you think this is any different from anything else that we ever do on the podcast. Half the time I don't remember what people's names are.
At least you've watched what we're talking about most of the time, but... Do you
Allegedly.
even know what Vicky looks like?
No, I don't know what it is.
She had a bit of brown curly hair.
We really haven't done a classic character for a while because I very rarely know what they look like.
That's so funny.
One time, I remember very distinctly, I don't remember who it was, but I looked the person up, and all the way through I was really smug with myself because I was like, I know who this is about.
So does any of the stories that we talked about tonight ring any bells?
Why would it ring any bells?
Well, we've done Bet and Alec as classic characters
really
before.
remember...
We've done Steve.
Right, listen. Here's a confession.
Yes.
I don't really know who Alec is.
Yes, you do know who Alec Gilroy
I kind of don't think I know who it is. I think I'm thinking of someone else and I'm thinking of him. I know who Bet is, but I often don't. If you were to say to me who is Bet's, were they married?
Yes.
Who is Alec Gilroy?
Yeah.
I'd say he was a grumpy man.
Yeah.
Who lived on Coronation Street.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Well, he hasn't been on it for 20 years,
had
I suppose.
glasses.
Now. He did have glasses.
And he was a bit portly.
Yes.
And that would be the end of it. I don't think I would remember that he was...
You'd have known that he was a bit of a skinflint and a...
No. I think I'm confusing him with Norris.
Yeah.
And yeah, because like I said before, I seriously think I've got a memory disorder. And you laugh at me every time I say this, but I think there's something wrong with my brain.
You need to start re-listening to all our podcasts.
I think I need to eat more white fish.
Right, I can't wait for you to be on our quiz team this summer.
I told you, I don't know why you think I'd be any good.
They might have a fashion round.
I can remember what happened earlier today, but if you asked me yesterday, like earlier, you said to me, "What did we have to eat yesterday?" and I couldn't remember.
Right.
I don't know how do people remember any of this stuff? I don't believe.
They don't fill their brains with fashion and royals like you do, and then they've got room for other things.
Yeah, but I don't remember that either.
Right, I think we're off the
the
track of Vicky McDonald now. So let's draw this section to a close after half an hour and move on.